Everywhere is freaks and heathens, dykes and villains. Tell me where is sanity? Tax the rich, feed the poor. Good evening to you. This is Rocken Larry Locken with Pleiadian Express Productions. We're here tonight with two of the admins from the regional groups of the Mothership Pleiadians group. And by the way, I'd like to give a big congratulations to Leah Shapiro on 25,000 members of the Pleiadians group. And I've got here with me tonight, I've got Tyler Biedebach from the Pleiadian Southeast. He's the admin and top cop, so to speak, over there. I don't know if that's a good term, but and Maru Morales, the new admin for Pleiades Latin America. Welcome, you two.
Hi, thank you very much for having us.
Maru,
thank you for having us, Larry.
You are in Mexico, right?
Yes, I'm in Mexico.
Awesome. And Tyler Biedebach is in the great state of Tennessee. So why don't we go ahead and get started, you guys? And I'm glad to have you here. I'm coming to you live from the Oregon coast here, West Coast USA, North America, Western Hemisphere. Need I go on? Maru, we wanted to start with talking a little bit about your awakening and how it started. I know the other night we were talking in private, and if you want to just kind of give us a rundown of when it started, when you started feeling different and thinking about these things like starseed issues and the Pleiadians and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it started maybe in September of last year, and I don't know, I just began to have like a very strong obsession for extraterrestrials, and I started to, you know, look for videos and information. And yeah, I think the first race I found out about was the Pleiadians, and I just felt the connection. And yeah, through meditation and stuff, I started seeing these like blue lights, and yeah, I started having these visions of being with them. And yeah, it's been quite fast from there. It's been, yeah, I don't
Seems
know,
like a blur.
yeah, it seems like a blur. I still can't. I mean, 2 years from now, I was completely like in a different place. And yeah, well, now it's just, for me, it's like I have like a deep commitment to help, to help, and I don't know, to be part of this transition. I think that it's what matters to me the most at this point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, when we first started having this awakening, we really did the research too, and just tried to find every video that we could, every book that we could, and just started, having extraterrestrials on our mind. And that's kind of how it started for me. And I know, Tyler, you're a bit younger. I know your soul's probably even older than ours, but you're a bit younger. How does that resonate with you at all? And kind of maybe share some of your experiences about first, awakening.
As far as my first experiences go, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I would say it definitely piqued my interest with extraterrestrials. I think that we a lot of times will have different ideas about them, and every person's idea is right to some degree, because it really is just an extension of your mind, is what true extraterrestrials are. As far as I mean, that's really kind of the grips that I've came to term with through different meditations, is that really when you're looking at them, it's really an extension of your best friend, like someone who you would hold very dearly and closely next to your heart. And that, so I mean, it really starts with wanting to have that relationship and that quest for knowledge, and that understanding of what pursuing the light within one's heart is really about. which, I mean, that's the first thing I took to was books. I would just start reading as many books as I possibly can on the subject. Audio, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's what you attract. You know, everyone has different auditory receptors, or people are visual learners. Some people like to kick the blocks around, like when they're learning things. So it really depends on uh, what what learning style, as far as you would best make sense of. And really the best learning that you can possibly get is from experiences. So it's
Mm,
just about going out into the world and having those experiences. Even though I'm a little bit younger, I have gone to multiple different states around the country and done door-to-door sales, which literally forces me to have to talk to as many people as I possibly can in order to, you know, provide for my idea, my, you know, 21-year-old idea of what fortuitous would be, or, you know, fortune, which is just knocking on a bunch of doors, talking to people, and working for good companies, and just kind of seeing the interactions and like I mean, looking back on the big scope of it, it was been a big enlightening period as far as going out and talking with different individuals. I mean, that's the best thing to do, is just to go out and talk with people. That's the biggest thing you can do with your ideas, is to share them with people.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, when I was younger too, when I worked in the corporate industry, before I had to give speeches in front of people, I would get sick at first. I was such an introvert. I didn't like it. But you find the more that you talk to people, the easier it gets. Did you find that is the more you did that, the easier it got to converse with people, to the point where you know, heck, I even started liking it actually, you know, talking in front of big groups.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And Maru, how about you? Do you have a little bit of fear and anxiety about talking in front of groups of people, or like, I mean, would something like going door to door bother you?
well, not really, because I have a different kind of anxiety, because I'm a musician and a
Oh.
singer. Well, I make songs. Yeah, I write songs. I'm not really like a musician, you know. I'm not. But yeah, and I've had to deal with performing, and I used to. It was like real panic at first. So yeah, I had to experience that. So kind of talking to people is not such a big deal because of the other part that I had to experience. But I totally understand, it's something you kind of have to um, work through, right?
Yeah,
Get
it
used
sounds
to.
like the three of us have, through experiences of our own, various ones, we became accustomed to doing that and got over that anxiety and fear. And you know, that's why I would encourage people to do their own shows, do their own radio show, you know, speak out, do your own videos, you know, share your message. We all have a part of this puzzle to put together, as well as our own, but moving towards that big puzzle of a collective. And you know, everybody's opinion is valid, and we are truly all one at the end of the day. And I would just encourage people that, you know, there's a lot of love out there, and especially in these groups, and you know, and just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Don't be afraid to start your own group or your own page, or even become an admin. It's really not that difficult to do, and it's really enjoyable, I think, anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's the thing, because most star seeds have this sense of awkwardness, or of not fitting in, or not belonging, and I think it can actually be a challenge to actually speak your mind, because you know, in general, like when you're around normal people, you know
Yeah,
it's
in 3D, in 3D, you mean?
in 3D, yeah, people are like, you're crazy, what are you talking about? So I think it is very important to open up in that way, and that recognize that the time is now, definitely.
Right, which leads me to another question. I'm going to throw this to Tyler. It seems like you're right, and it's difficult sometimes being around the 3D, but Tyler, do you see kind of more and more, like in your life, do you see more of almost a separation from people of that mentality? Not just a separation, but like it's almost like we're not even in their world even. It's like we're both, even if we're around them, we're operating out of another dimension. Does that make sense at all? It just seems like it's almost
Totally.
the
Yeah.
world isn't.
I believe that it's a lot of the way that I can relate it to is it's like being like wrapped in an envelope of energy, And people who are on the same vibrational resonance as you are inside that same envelope with you, and you're not really exposed to outside. And there are different envelopes of frequency and resonance and dimension as well. So I mean, there's just, you know, to the upteenth power of different variations that can occur there. But when you're inside these different envelopes, you basically become invisible. So, but yeah, it's because of the frequency that we walk on. We walk basically in a galactic, bigger form. When people say, you know, I feel bigger than my body, it's because I feel a lot of starseeds realize that we are bigger than our bodies. And then we move through a grocery store, you know, we're impacting people just by them walking through our energy, really. They may not realize it, but subconsciously they're being affected.
That's weird you would say that, because I was thinking about that scenario, talk about synchronicity, and then you bring it up, you know, like you're in a grocery store, right, and you may get this look, and it's not really a weird look, a good look, or a bad look, but it's because your energy, they're drawing off of your energy, you know, and we need to realize how much, you know, we affect people for the good and the positive. And even, I know Jane Hermstead and I were talking about this same scenario, Tyler, and she was mentioning, like, you know, she's having a bad day or something, or, you know, just really doesn't want anybody to come near her. She, you know, she'll be in a grocery store, or she made the analogy on a bus, nobody would sit by her. But I made the analogy, like, a couple times when I went into the grocery store and I'm just not in the mood to deal with people. Well, it's like all of a sudden the store's packed, but the aisles of them down or empty, right? And you know, when it's one of those extreme days like that, or everybody's drawn to the same aisle that I'm in, or, you know, it's just, it's kind of like that. It's really more even deeper than we even realize. We're just really scratching the surface, and fortunate to be able to scratch the surface of something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Maru, do you find that to be the case too? Like what Tyler's saying is that you just, people are drawn to your energy, and maybe in the past you didn't realize why, but it just seemed like it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that really it happens very often. And it got quite overwhelming at some point, because you know, sometimes being in places that were packed with people, or it became an issue to me. I felt like um yeah, like too much, right? But yeah, now that I kind of understand that, it's getting better for sure.
Yeah, hence the point before. Yeah, exactly. When you know, it's a lot better when you realize, because I've talked to a lot of people, and before they were awakened and knew why it was, it just, you wouldn't know if somebody was looking at you like they had a problem with you, or there was something wrong with you, or you just wonder, you don't know for sure. And now you it kind of really puts the, you know, it puts the dot on the I and the T, or the cross on the T, or whatever, the cross on the I and the dot on the T. But nevertheless, it certainly does tie together now. And I think that we're, you know, especially, and I've said it before, we're all really starting to vibe on this wavelength where the synchronicity, and I know Tyler can attest to this, is just every day, it's just almost by the hour now, some
Yeah.
little synchronicity happens like that. I mean, you know, wouldn't you agree, Tyler, or do you disagree? No, I'm kidding. I know
Oh,
you.
I agree 100%, Larry. 100%, man. It's happening at an exponentially faster rate, it feels like. I don't know if anyone else can
Yeah,
attest to the feeling of
I can.
yeah. So
I
yeah,
know Michelle
exactly.
Rowling
And
can. I
I think
know.
it's everybody, you know. It's like we can all
Mhm.
feel it. It's like, you know, the unspoken elephant in the room. People are like, I really like looking at their coworkers. They're like, there's some things going on with the earth right now that I cannot explain, but you know, you can't really say that to your coworkers, you know.
Yeah, it's that, hence the point again about being in a completely different dimension. There are some people, and yes, and I know it's the case, it's even hard for me to believe, though, because of where, like, with the three of us are at, it's hard for me to believe that people are still completely immersed in thinking, you know, I understand 9 to 5 people are working, but they're immersed in that mentality of go to work, go to lunch, go home, watch Dancing with the Stars, watch Friends, go to bed, and they're always never living in the now moment. They're always thinking, what I'm going to do next. Well, God, I got to get up now. I got to go to work. What am I going to do for lunch? You know, and on and on and on. And they don't think, or I wonder if some of them realize what's going on as far as like little earth changes, or if maybe their innate does, but they don't know what the hell they're seeing or thinking. It's just, it's odd. I really don't deal with a lot of people like that anymore on a big grand basis. I've got a few friends that I hang out with a lot, but they're kind of even semi starting to awake. So I guess there are people out there that are completely still asleep. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be a fool not to think so, but I wouldn't know. I mean, Tyler, any ideas on that as far as people you deal with?
Yeah, I kind of just realized that in a lot of ways that when I look at other people and I perceive them to be asleep, it's really looking at myself saying, hey, there's still a side of you that's asleep. This person's just an extension of your thought or your
Yeah.
feelings. So, embrace and then love that person, send as much love and thank that person spiritually for being there to give you that message because with soul contracts we made these agreements before we came into this life, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we are fulfilling those in our karmatic relationships, and we're basically getting to the end of that because those things we cannot take those things with us. We cannot take those relationships and those contracts. So um,
Yeah.
I feel like it's more I'm beginning to see it in people, how they're making progress, looking around and looking at myself and seeing how I'm making spiritual progress, that I kind of deal with that idea of um, looking at because basically there are still parts of our brain and our heart that are laying dormant, that are preparing for this shift as well, those energy centers. And I just get excited sometimes and just be like, yes, like
Yes.
there are people who are awake.
The
It's like
breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're here for the ride.
Right. But
Exactly.
yeah, it's very interesting because at first, well, it happens to me sometimes, even now, and I think it's very important what you just said, Taylor, because um, I am surrounded by people that are, you know, completely into their things and asleep completely, and it kind of because I'm always talking about everything that I learn about. And yeah, people look at me like, okay, you're crazy. But then I get really frustrated, and
Mhm.
it's like, please open your eyes. And they're still thinking, in the same religious ways and political ways, the whole thing, the whole. And and I think it's very important to actually embrace and understand that it's, yeah, like a soul contract. And we kind of chose the people we're surrounded by for a higher purpose. And I think it's very important because, there will be a lot less frustration and yeah, that kind of feeling of, come on, let's, we should just make it quick when it's not. It's a process, right? We should really respect the way things are going, right?
Yeah, you have to respect somebody else's free will. And the big problem that I had when I first awoken about 3 years ago, I say awoken, I don't like using catch terms, but when I started to change, is that I got so excited that I thought
Yeah,
everybody else around me should be feeling this and seeing the extraterrestrials in the sky and things like that, that
yeah,
I would point it out, and people really were put off by it. And then I came to the conclusion that all you can do is send them love from a distance, so to speak, and when they're ready to ask some questions or find out, be there for them. But it's like this, even showing somebody something, like say something was right in the sky in front of you, even if say it was a craft, right? Well, if you showed them that and they're not ready to see it, they won't. It's like their eyes can see it, but they're in denial. They go into
yeah.
denial. They try to dismiss it as anything you could ever imagine, from a helicopter flying in a circle for 10 hours to a seagull with coal miners' glove lights on it. I mean, anything like that,
Right.
if they've even seen it, and that's if they even see it. A lot of times they'll be like, I don't see it. I don't see it. So the point I'm trying to make with that is that even if you could show them visually, if they're not ready, you're just imposing on their free will to keep on them about it. Because
Right.
it is a pretty heavy thing, I guess, for
Dude,
some.
I vibe with that so hard, Larry. Oh my goodness, sir. It's like
Yeah.
you almost wonder if like that's part of the deprogramming that we're going through. It's like, do they literally still see like something different, and that they're just it's so outrageous to their programming that they're just rejecting it? Or are these people just trying to make sense of it as in their own time? But it's like it's an interesting question, man, because
Mm,
we do our best to share this information and this knowledge, and I guess it's really about grasping that like each one of us individually has a higher purpose that we are fulfilling every day by day by day. With every step we're taking, we're getting stronger. Um, But yeah, man, it's like when you show some of this to like even I still talk with my parents, and
Ah,
it's like a lot of times I just feel like it's like, is the message just not fully getting through? It's like I can tell that they're treading water, but it's like they haven't really dove in the pool, or I guess
Yeah,
they're kind of more tippy toeing. They're putting their
yeah.
yeah,
toes in the water. They're like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense on certain things. It's like, well, it's all connected.
And I can
Just
vibe.
dive in and just see how the water is.
And I can vibe on that too. Like with my parents, it's the same thing. They're kind of treading water and seeing it a little bit, but still, my dad will still be watching the news and tell me about shit going on in the news. It's like I don't even. I'm like, Dad, I don't even live in that world anymore. I can't even vibe with that. It's the same old shit that I've heard for a million years, and it's just not kind of my thing. And it's kind of part of the illusion. And two, the thing is like when they see something like in the sky, the funny thing is they will come up with the most off the wall shit that it could be instead of what it really is. I mean, the shit that they come up with is would truly really be impossible almost. Making an excuse for what it is that they think they see. But I think you're right. It's part of that deprogramming that they're kind of going through. And maybe you're right. They're trying to make sense of it in their own right and get through it. And all we can do is not badger them about it and just kind of be there. But it is. I certainly, man, it is frustrating. And you were speaking like talking with your parents. Do you see them opening up a little more than they were, or I mean, I'm not sure of the situation, but
I mean, I would say they've made significant leaps and bounds as far as, I mean, my dad and I are both Geminis, so we both have very good communication with each other. We like get each other, and we can just talk it out. So like him and I, we have great discussions, like mind expanding discussions. He's actually a double Gemini, which is kind of weird to think about. That there's four of my dads running around, which is just I
mm,
think it's kind of funny.
yeah.
You just get a kick out of that.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my dad, he gets it. It's just like it just feels like sometimes with my mom, like it's just like you know I just the way that I communicate the shift with her is I just hug her and I just send abundance of love to her, and just give her words of kindness, because it's about speaking their love language. We all want to be loved, and
Yeah,
No, it's true.
totally.
We do. And Maru, do you find what's the situation like? Is it kind of like that way with your parents, or
It is. It is. It's exactly the same, basically. I mean, yeah, they do understand a couple of things, and they say, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that we're not the only ones in the universe. That it makes sense, but when you start getting into details, they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And I think a good question is, because if we're here because of our soul contracts, and we chose almost like our environment, maybe there's a chance, because I think it's very common that um, people who star seeds or light workers, etc., you're born into a family that is most of you're completely different from them, right? So it seems like we have the mission to be of assistance to them first, right? Like it's like you're gonna know something they won't, and maybe at some point you will have to you're gonna be like the reference. That's the way I see it and I feel it. How can we, I don't know how to put it, but
well, yeah, all we can do is be there for them, and that this is what's going to happen more and more. And I think you're starting to slowly see this matriculate is that we are there for a point of reference for them. It's like went from badgering people about, well, why aren't you seeing this? Why aren't you awakening to? Now I just kind of love them and show them love,
mm,
all that I can on their level, like Tyler was speaking about. And then, now they're slowly starting to ask the questions. And yeah, we're going to play an important role,
yeah,
very minimum, at least all of us
yeah,
in being there as guides. And it's very important, the mission that we're on. And we were chosen for this. And
right.
we chose to do this and surround ourselves in the environments we were. And growing up kind of removed from any of our soul family, our star family. I mean, look at how spread out we all are.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel we volunteered for it more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
whether we want to bear it some days when it's rainy outside or not, it's like we chose to be here and to experience that rainy day on that particular moment to
Right.
make a certain
Yeah.
discovery.
Yeah, and I think that's like very important. So for everyone to understand, because it does get very overwhelming. People really get frustrated. They feel very isolated. They think they're crazy at some point until they start connecting with, with the whole community. But I think it's very important to understand because that gives us a sense of comfort, a sense of certainty. I think it's very, very important.
Oh yeah, what a miracle these groups have been. I mean, hooking up and meeting, at least knowing, hey, you're not alone, and then you talk to everybody almost to a person, and at the very minimum, their stories match like 80%, and the other
Yeah,
20, if they don't, it's just because of a change in circumstances. But most people's stories match like almost 90% to a T. I mean, some of the names change and that, but it's
That's
really
it. I mean, I'm with you that that's basically it. Because we have an idea of names, it's like history is just repeating itself. It's just the
mm,
names and dates get changed around. But dates, is also something that we as humans created. But it's
yeah,
like we have no need for names in a higher dimension. It's like we're all energy forms. But
all
yeah,
knowing.
I think that exactly we're all experiencing this. We have been experiencing this. We are all one at this moment. Um, we just have this illusion like, oh, but this is my name, and those are all parts of the ego, which we are also shedding during
yeah,
this ascension process, I believe.
absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And it is about shedding the ego and planning to, come here and do this at this time. And we are one. And we're just kind of waking up to that and realizing slowly that, and like you said, Tyler, we have done this before. And it's kind of like, and you bring up Atlantis and Lemuria, it's like, okay, well, that was definitely the ancient history, but it also the distant future. And we keep going in and out of these timelines in parallel realities. But I think right now the big thing about this time too is all those timelines are like coming together, and that is actually what we consider the now moment, where it's like completely everything now. It'd be like, I give the example of, okay, say like Tyler or you, Maru, you could go in and out of any time in your life at any second at will, wherever you were at any time, back and forth, because it's all at once at that level. It's just interdimensional, and we're starting to awaken to being awake to it and not looking at it as kind of a missing puzzle piece. And why do I feel this way? And where am I longing for? And you know what I mean, Maru? Does that
Yes.
resonate with you at all?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think um, that's how it is, and that's when you actually understand what, you know, the now moment, because it seems like such a cliche, right? People, oh yeah, live in that, but then when you understand the depth of it, it starts to make sense, and it's actually very exciting, right?
Exactly, exactly right there. It's one thing to know that it sounds good, and yeah, but once you get full of that feeling, it's a whole nother thing else.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
You had said something about that, filling yourself up with the spirit of it, Larry, on one of our previous talks. I can't remember who you were talking about. We were talking about the law of attraction, but you were
Right.
talking about filling yourself up with like the spirit of oneness, or you were talking about different. But it was something along those lines. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it basically, with anything you're doing, getting full of that feeling. Okay, it's one thing to not even realize it. It's another thing, like I think that all three of us have always realized at our level, is that, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And okay, I bet it is that way. And yeah, it sure would be nice. But then to actually get full of that feeling of feeling that way, that we are oneness. I mean, it sounds good to say we are one. It sounds good to say in the now moment. Okay, well, that's probably really how it is. But then now we're like getting full of that feeling, and we feel it inside and know it. You know what I mean? It's not a sight thing. It's not a hear thing. It's we feel that in spirit, and that's a good way to put it, Tyler. Your spirit gets embodied with it versus just your 3D ego or your 3D sense of what is, which we don't know what the hell really is, until we get it in our spirit.
That's right. That's right,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, I have my moments.
There's about 30 terms that I feel like one day we will fully embody, or those the day, not the 20, or I think there is 20. Yeah, I said 30, but the 20 spiritual laws, I think there's 22. But as far as fine tuning those down with a nice nail file and figuring out using those as structural pillars for how we interact on a economic scale, on a religious scale, um, because the universal laws are quoted from N5D. It was an article written by Miss Michelle Walling. That's not a hole. She's not your average hole in the wall. yeah,
Or
Michelle wrote.
or just another
There's an
brick in the
article.
wall.
Or brick, yeah, not just another brick in the wall. That's right. What did I say? Not another hole in the wall.
No, she's definitely not that either, man.
No, she's not. The 22 universal laws, though. I mean, those will be things that will be our structure. Those will be things that we'll be able to take into councils of small communities of about, I don't know. I think communities, when I picture communities of the New Earth, they're about like 100 to, some can be like these mega cities, like what is it? The Venus Project. He did these really cool Jacques Baroque or something. Did these huge. He predicts everyone's going to live in like closer spaces, condominiums in the future, of these vertical structures.
Yeah.
But we'll basically have smaller groups that will be able to fine tune these 20 universal laws.
I haven't read this, but what you're saying right there, it really resonates. And I'll let you go on, but it really resonates with me, that just in what you said right there.
The
Yeah.
Venus Project, yeah, I mean, I watched the documentary from in 5D, and it was, I think, like the number third or number fourth top video on there that they had, and it was just amazing. It was one of those enlightening documentaries that took the Hollywood out of the whole, I want to watch a movie, but I don't want a bunch of subliminal messages pumped into me. Just give me a good director of photography and interview the dang guy and ask him questions. And that's what basically they do, and it's his philosophy on a resource-based economy, how right now we're monetary and economic based economy, but how moving towards a global reset of those things. But there are various different movements going on, like the Ubuntu movement is really cool. New Earth Nation. Ubuntu is a really cool phrase, which means I am because we are. And that is actually a philosophy that people would live by in a tribe where, let's say, for example, you were to go to a tribe and there's about 12 children, and you have a big basket, and you say, all right, everyone who go get apples, and whoever brings back the most gets the whole basket of apples. So they all go back, they all go out, bring back as many apples as they can, and then they start to give it to the boy, and the boy decides not to eat any for himself until everyone had some. And that was one of the philosophies of Ubuntu. It's because I am happy because we are happy. I have enough because we have enough.
Wow.
Wow, that's, I really vibe with that a lot. And I think that that's what we're moving towards, and all these different movements and whatnot are moving towards this oneness. We're all playing our role, and everything is really relevant in this, and we're all doing our part in coming closer together. At least that's the way I see things anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. And hearing about all these projects, we were talking about that earlier, Larry and I, and Jason Wilson, who's also an admin from the Pleiadian group. We're talking about um, it, expanding the action, right? Because that happens, yeah, there's lots of projects, but I think we still need more. And now that we have all these groups, and everyone's coming together, sharing, and I think it's important to actually start organizing ourselves and seeing, starting to see what each of us can do, or depending on which part of the planet you are, to start actually creating all of these things, right?
Yeah, it's definitely true, and I think we're in the manifesting stage of that right now. That was a concern of mine a while back, is okay, getting all this going, but what am I doing to actually do more, to actually, it's good to put all these guidelines in place, get everything organized, but then where do we go from here? And I think we're kind of manifesting that right now, I hope anyway. I don't know, Tyler, you have any thoughts on that?
I'll just pour myself some more water. Keep rocking, man. I'm about to ionize my water and infuse it with some positive intention.
Good. Well, basically what I was saying is, it's like, Maru and I were talking about, all this stuff where groups have come together, we're organized now, we're getting to the point where things are set, but it's like, okay, now we need to actually, like, I don't know, just little by little all start doing our own part. And I don't want to use the word we all need to start doing more, because that sounds like some cliche, but really just whatever it is that vibes and resonates with you that's for the good of the collective, that's
Mm.
for the good of humanity, just start doing. Take that extra step. Like I said earlier, I hate to harp on it again, but be an admin for a group. Start your own group, start your own show, start whatever, or contribute. Just offer your thoughts, because everybody's thoughts are welcome. And not only that, they're needed. And I would even go so far as to be bold and say this, because then I've called a few people out on this in private, is like, okay, you're talking all these things and telling me all this and telling me, and I agree and I agree and I agree, but yet you don't want to voice this or anything. It's like, really, you're doing humanity an injustice. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to call anybody selfish, but if there was one selfish thing I could point out, it's really doing that. A couple people will want to talk to me forever and ever and say this and this and this, but they don't want to come on and talk or do anything. And I mean, I understand they may be having issues in their own life, but that really, to me, I don't have a lot of patience for that anymore, because it's really time to get cards on the table. And and it's not like we're asking anybody to move mountains by themselves. We're going to do this together.
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's using the universal law of wisdom, knowing that the guidance, is there for us when we request it. I think
Mm.
that's just the biggest challenge, is that most people who are still asleep are not requesting resources from their higher dimensional beings, their higher dimensional selves. And it's like, if we can get more people, and that's that 51% point, who are invoking the aid of their higher dimensional beings, and that's really when we're going to start seeing some very dramatic. I mean, I feel like I'm already, my psychic intuition is increasing.
oh
Um,
man.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the it's we just have to be able to use our wisdom, and know that the people who you feel drawn towards to say something about this is there's a reason for that. It's like it could be you in a different life wanting
Mm.
you to walk up to you and have that conversation. And
Yeah.
the only real way that you'll know that is by listening to your intuition, which comes from the higher self. So it's like people have to get almost, and we all have that divine spark in us, we all have that ability to tap into that innate creativity. That's where it starts, but where it really comes through is when you do meditations and you do healing of crystals, and you are intenting positive things into your water, and you're drinking clean water, and you're eating whole foods, and you're blessing your food before you eat it. It's when you're taking the time to do those little things that you're allowing your higher dimensional self in, which is going to make a bigger impact.
No, I totally agree, exactly. And people, we really are, your psychic intuition you were speaking of. It's like, I feel like this is happening more and more by the day. I mean, we're going through this shift right now, really, and it's a set of steps. It's not just one big bang and we're there. It's like we're building that bridge to telepathy. The last real channeling I had myself, I don't call it channeling, but when the Pleiadians actually came to me a couple months ago, they were telling me in a telepathic thought that that's what this is. We're building that bridge with people like us, and people that are with us in the group. We're building that bridge of telepathy and tuning into each other's frequencies. But it starts with a thought. It starts
Mm.
with a notion. It starts with the same thought a week apart to a day apart to we just had the same thought a second apart or at the same time, and then it goes from there. It's not just we wake up one day and I'm like, oh, thinking in my mind, oh, Tyler, or oh, Maru, how's the weather where you're at, and I hear back,
Right.
like you see in an old science fiction movie. And I think what kills me is I think some people actually they actually fathom that that's how telepathy is. It's
Yeah.
not that it's not an all-knowing. And what is telepathy? Telepathy is all-knowing. It's like you were saying, Tyler, in a civilization more advanced than us. No name. They don't need any names. There's no reason for lies or judgment, because nobody judges or lies because there's no need to.
Yeah.
And and that's what it is. It's not like it's something hard to do or to not do. It just is. And they're tuned into each other's frequency telepathically, and that's how it is. They're all on this one cosmic internet, so to speak, if you will,
Mm.
together. And I just kind of see it that way myself. I feel like we're moving towards
Yeah.
that at a rapid pace, and it's just increasing almost by the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think also that's why we've been going through such a tough a stage of clearing, right? You have to clear your emotional and mental body, bodies to actually access all these things, and physical, obviously. So I think it's very important what you're saying, because we really do need to understand the connection we have with our higher selves and the higher realms to actually get this information. And once we're there, then we can actually start acting and be of assistance, like real assistance, as a community, right? But I think it's very important for everyone to understand that first step of connecting to that wisdom, right? That kind
Yeah.
of spiritual intuition. I think it's very important.
Yeah, it's a set of several steps, really. Like I
Mm,
said, it starts with a thought, a notion, then a thought, and then it comes into being. And it's something that builds slowly, but yet it picks up rapidly as it goes. And,
yeah.
it's really an exciting time we're living in. And, before we all come back together as oneness, maybe it is too that all our beings and all our parallel realities, ourselves and our multidimensional higher selves, are coming into oneness with each other and then it comes into a unity, maybe collective, and then a complete, group collective, and then, all oneness. So it's definitely, I think, a series of steps in phases. Then it's a series of phases, each one with steps in it, or, that it seems to be logical to me.
Yeah, but it's very important that to understand, like, the higher purpose, because sometimes when you're not really sure, when there's lots of people who are starting the whole process, but are not really connected to the depth of it. And some really get stuck in the clearing process, for example, or the ascension symptoms, right? So if you understand, like, the depth and the transcendence of the whole mission, I think it can be much easier for most of us, right?
Yeah, I would think so too. And I just wanted to say too, take a second here and say that we do have one live viewer actually watching us right now. And if you can hear me, and if you're on Facebook, if you want to drop me a message, or Tyler a message, or Maru, and let us know who you are, we'd be happy to give you a shout out. But anyway, so yeah, back to these steps. Forgot where I was, of course, but Tyler, my man, bail me out.
Yeah, man. It was funny. I was actually just doing a little tarot card reading, and for room for improvement, man, it was just talking about kind of what you were talking about is, or what I kind of had resonated with is still looking at the childish side of life. I drew the
Mm,
Six of Cups for room for improvement, which is the children are standing in a garden. There's cups filled with flowers or beautiful feelings or fantasies. The card suggests an idyllic childhood in which one feels unconditional love and support, and I feel in a lot of ways that most people, starseeds, didn't get that. We went through a lot of turmoil and a lot of
mm,
growth early on.
yeah.
The man standing watchfully in the background suggests the principle of ageless wisdom. We are children of divinity, watched over and loved by our divine parents in ways our physical parents were unable to do. I just thought that
Mm,
was interesting because, Maru, we were also talking about our parents earlier. We were
yeah.
all talking about our parents.
Yeah,
No, it's true,
absolutely.
and that really resonates with me too. What you just said, yeah, I agree. I agree, and I think what another point I was going to make to you guys is sometimes, like Maru was saying, they get hung up on ascension symptoms or get stuck in this or that. I think the two, like with just like with names, but with words, we get hung up on a term, an ascension date, Ashtar
Yeah,
Command Cobra, which all these things are relevant, but I think people sometimes just get completely hung up on the term or the name, and they don't really see what's behind it. Or an Illuminati symbol, they're hung up on a symbol, but they have no clue about really what's behind it in the depths of it. Or it just I would encourage people to look kind of past what they're hearing or seeing, and look and read and hear for the undertones that register with your innateness.
right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt, because it isn't
Mm.
all sunshine and lollipops. There are definitely, you know, things that you want to protect yourself from.
Yeah.
And it's about making that distinction and declaring that you no longer want those things to enter your vibrational field. And, you know, that's definitely a hard thing for me, I can say, is to say no to someone, you know, because I love to be a people pleaser, which is a
Yeah.
very bad thing. You actually, in a lot of ways, what pleases us pleases really our ego. It doesn't really please the spirit.
Yes. Boy,
Yeah.
that's really got me in a lot of trouble
And
over the years. And you're right, Tyler. Yeah, any with
yeah,
those guys. Yeah.
I've gone, yeah, it's the story of my life. Being a pleaser, it's just something that happens a lot. But you know, a little bit, you know what Larry was saying is that yeah, we live in a society that is used to adoring someone or following a leader, or you know, religion, politics. You know, we're always, okay, tell me what to do. Okay, you're telling me, you're teaching me. And yeah, yes, we're always in this process of learning, of course. But I think now is the time to actually take it with a grain of salt, and with all the information we have, uh, pick all the things that resonate with us, and really connect to our inner wisdom. I think that's like the challenge now. I think that's very important at this point.
I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, we have to, you know, hold on to our core beliefs as we're inundate ourselves, because there's a lot of information on the shift, and there's a lot of information on ascending, and a lot of information on different things going on, global events. You know, it's like it's just the mental inundation of all the information, and it's good to cut
Mm.
the cord. Sometimes you have to cut the cord and, you know,
Yeah.
be like, like
Yeah.
literally, like you have to go out, and that's the benefit of doing crystals. But you know, you literally have to go outside and get grounded and be like, all right, let me
Yes.
digest, let me chew
Yes.
on this for a minute.
We were
Okay,
talking about
now
that,
I'll go
Larry.
back. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other night, Larry and I. It's like because sometimes you're just in front of the computer or whatever, and it's so much information from all these different groups, all these different pages, all the videos on YouTube. It's like you're taking in and taking in, and then, but it's not like recycling. It's not, you know, it's not, it's overwhelming. And I think it's also very important to break all the paradigms that we suffer here on Earth. That it's that what I mentioned before, right? I think it's a good thing that we have to break all the things that make us learn or feel or whatever from the external, right? And yeah, just use that, and yeah, clear a little bit and go out and avoid saturation, right? Because it has happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned that. And, you know, Jane Hermstead and I, one of the other admins and Pleiadians, were talking about this the other night. She brought up a good point that you mentioned all this information we're inundated with in the groups and whatnot. And I think a lot of us are getting to a point, though, where we can go right down a group, you know, all the postings. And if it resonates with us, we read it. If it doesn't, we don't. It's getting to the point where we just go back past it, no judgment. It
Yeah.
just, we're getting to the point where things catch our eye that we're meant to. Like, and Michelle Walling was talking about how her guides even lead her to information when she's online, you know, and it could just come from something she accidentally clicked, or looking for one link and getting to another. And it's just, I think that we're learning, our innateness is learning to discern what we need to know, and skipping past the rest of the minutia. I mean, you know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're
Yes.
right. Our mind will have that way of navigating to the things that we naturally want to attract.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. I mean, it really does. And you go through those levels of, okay, you're overwhelmed with all this information. What should I look at? And then you're to the point where you might see, you know, some of it, and you'll be like, another post like that again. And now it just gets to the point where now your innateness just kind of skips over it, and it's not really with any judgment. It's just that, you know, and please, people out there, we're not saying, oh, we'll just turn a blind eye. It's not like that at all.
No.
It's letting your kind of higher self and multidimensional self take over, and be in oneness with each other and get what you need to get. And the rest of it, hey, if it resonates with you, fine. If it don't, fine. If a little bit of it does, well, still fine. you know, and if not, fine, you know, just
And
move
if it
on.
doesn't at all, that's still fine because you
Yep.
know that's your distinction to make. Because you
Yeah.
know that's part of any truth that you hear will feel like it's written on your heart, like truly you will
Yeah.
feel it, you growing from your heart chakra
Yeah.
more than you can possibly understand. I mean, and a lot of people do understand that it's the same frequency of love when you feel, you know, you receive those kind words or you receive a gift or, you know, whatever your love language is. It's that feeling of like, you know, this person's got me, like they got my back, they're looking out for my best interest. And definitely surrender yourself to your higher selves because they actually know everything that's going to happen and has already happened and is going to happen. And our material body really is just here for the ride. We are supposed to take it, but we have to make that effort to tread water, to just get a little bit better. Because if you can just get a little bit better every day, you'll look back at the end of your life and you're like, wow, I'm actually fantastic at just being a great person, just being a kind person.
Yeah, and isn't that all that matters, really? And you're right. If you just take it day by day, Tyler, like you said, step by step, you don't have to get caught in this mentality of getting out of the now moment. Oh God, what am I going to do here? When am I going to do this? When's the time? When am I going to do this or that? Or you just, you know, you realize that it's just one little tiny step at a time, even at the smallest of an effort of blinking an eye, and then another, and you
Yeah.
go from there. And you know, you hear the term baby steps, and people get frustrated, like, oh, I know it takes forever, but when you get in that now moment kind of, I like to call it 5D mentality almost, it really isn't that hard to do because you just do it. You're in that moment. It's like we know time is speeding up and going really, really fast right now, but at the same time, it seems lately that we really are completely living in the now moment almost, okay? And the now moments are just
That's
there
right.
forever.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The ever existing now moment, wherever you may be, galactically, spaciously, astrally, you know, whatever dimension it's happening right now. It's
Yes.
there's
Yes.
no there's no, you know, yesterday or tomorrow. It's all happening right now. And it's exciting. That's like the cosmic giggle. It's like you realize all that the universe doesn't stop. It doesn't hiccup. It's always happening right now.
Yeah, it's never ended or it's never began. And that's another thing here too of actually thinking that, but then getting full of that soul feeling of realizing it. Because people, you know, and I've said this before, get stuck in that, well, when did it start? What was before that? Well, it always just
Yeah.
was and it's ever expanding, but it's always coming back together too. So
Mhm.
it's really just all now. It's all right. That's all there is. And now it's to me, now I'm to the point where it seems silly, the concept even that there was a beginning or an end, you know?
Yeah.
It seems just really unbelievable, you know, because it's not true, but it seems so ridiculous to even think it,
Yes.
that there could be.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important because, you know, with all the dates we're receiving nowadays, like the clips on the 15th, this is going to happen. Something huge
God.
is going to happen very soon. This is going to happen soon. Be ready. Be prepared.
This
No, no, no. You're
activation,
going to
that
go.
activation,
So
yeah.
people are just waiting and expecting and what's going to happen and what's going to have to be ready, but then what's going to happen tomorrow, but then am I doing it correctly? And when you understand that everything is now, then really
Yeah,
I
this
think it's very
activation.
important to people. I think there's a lot of because like it's I think it's a lots of dates, lots of future events.
Good God. And
That's why people are like, what's happening? I kind of feel it, but nothing's happening. Yeah, because we're not living here. Because if you realize it's actually happening right now, if you stop thinking about,
yeah,
you know, when the extraterrestrials get here, when you stop, you know, making reference to all to the future moment, it's happening now.
it is. And I think from still a tiny bit of ego standpoint,
I got kicked out. Larry, you still there? So we have, my understanding is we may have some technical difficulties right now. We still have the live button. I think we may have lost Maru. Hey, you
I,
there?
I think we did lose her. Yeah, yeah. That was kind of odd to say the least. Wow. Well, yeah. I was kind of on what I was kind of saying, Tyler, was, you know, people. And she's right. People get hung up on this date or that date, and they keep expecting them to come save us. Well, we are the extraterrestrials. We really get hung up on this portal date, this activation date. They're not living. You cannot possibly be living in the now moment when you sit there and say, well, I'm waiting for this date, or this is going to happen. But yet again, those are all relevant per se, but they're all happening at once. It's not of, okay, well, next week is going to be this, or that week is going to be that, or there's a blood moon coming up, or, you know, what they're saying may be true in essence, but at the same time, they're not living in the now moment at all, not even.
It's going to take a very serious event, and I know that there are multiple articles on N5D talking about an actual like there's something that is going to happen. We just don't know exactly what it is. It's going to be some kind of a false flag 9/11 type event that
Yeah.
is going to shake, like literally, it's going to be a collapse of an economic system, which is what will have to happen. The banks are just going to have to close. For people to really realize, like, you know, that there's, oh my gosh, like something really is happening, and people will still have that opportunity to make the jump to 5D. I mean, it's already destined. For the people who know about it, if you're listening to it right now, you know, you already know that you have guaranteed your boat ride on to 5D with the rest of us.
Yes. Anybody
It's
listening to
just
this?
there will be something. Again, I think it's kind of the unnamed mystery, and that's really kind of part of the reason why we're here. It could be a collapse of all of them. You know, that's part of the ascension process, is seeing the tides wash away the old and the new tides and see what they bring in.
Yeah, it could be in phases. You know, you could see the banking system go down, and then you could see the political systems go down, and, you know, just everything, economic, complete cultural changes, because, you know, maybe we'll be forced to have to, hey, Maru, you're back.
Hello, I
How are you?
am.
Okay, we're back and rocking and rolling. We were just expanding on the point of, you know, and Tyler was talking about, you know, something big happening as far as, you know, getting us to move
For
to
the
the
rest of the people to wake up,
right,
like
for the rest
actual
of the people.
something very noticeable, like an actual like collapse of some system, you know, something that is like very widespreadly known, and that would
Hmm.
basically force people to it would kind of be the, how do you say, the jump into cold water, or, you know, the springboard effect
Yeah.
of them being like, oh, yep, something's big's going on. I need to prepare, and just kind of, you know, kickstart that.
Yeah, and maybe the rest of us at this point, that's like I was talking about earlier, that's when we're going to be dependent upon
Right.
there for people to give them, you know, a shoulder to lean on, so to speak, and to answer questions about what's going on, you know, and at least we'll have a clue about that, because it, you know, this big event, you know, and it could be a series of them, the economic collapse, then a political one, and, you know, and maybe that's the lesson right there, is that we're here to be there for those people, and that's what it's going to take to kick those final unawakened people, so to speak, into gear and get them to realize, hey, you know, there's something going on, and then, you know, we'll probably each be inundated with loved ones asking us questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm sorry. I'm sorry before. It just kicked me out. I
Yeah,
don't know what
yeah.
happened.
Blame the
Yeah.
cabal.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I actually felt an energy move in through my room, like brush along my right shoulder, like a cool breeze. And it was totally, and then I like almost felt it like within my auric field.
Oh,
And
really?
then it just disconnected. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what's weird, Tyler, is too, is that the way it disconnected was weird. Okay, it disconnected, and usually with these hangouts, that's the end of it, period. We would have had to stop there, and I almost just about ended it, and then all of a sudden you were back on. You know, my camera was on, and then there was nobody, and then you were back on, and then, yeah, it was weird, because usually it doesn't happen that way. When that happens, it's done, the broadcast. So
Oh,
that's kind
really?
of totally,
Oh,
totally. So
I thought
that,
it was
well,
it was the three of us
It was a
disconnecting.
group thing. We all experienced it. That was just, it was interesting.
Oh, I
Interesting
thought
very
to
it
say
was.
the least.
interesting.
Wow. Wow.
I would
Yeah.
even say unexplainable, but I mean, then again, you know, it's technology. Like, what do we really understand about it? I mean, shoot, we
No,
could.
exactly.
But it
Crystals are
had.
technology. I mean, you know, that's kind of a funny topic to think about, how a lot of people don't really get technology. Like, I'm an Apple guy, so it's like I don't really get PC computers, but for other people, it's the exact opposite, where
Totally.
it's just like
That's for
where it's
me.
like we just don't have a full understanding on
Yeah.
something that that we make.
Oh, I've seen Office Wars over it back in back in the 90s and early 2000s, Tyler, where yeah, the Mac, I mean, people, the IT department, it would drive them nuts because people would have to have, some people their PC, some people would have to have their Mac, and it, back in those days, it wasn't as compatible even as it is maybe now. I don't know, but it was it wasn't an easy thing to combine multiple systems with each one of those products together. It was.
I just
Yeah.
feel like we're approaching a point where we've learned as much as we can from our technology, which is like the human body vehicle, and it's like it's time for a hardware update, because it's like I feel like we're already starting to get the software, and it's like our bodies are like that's kind of our bodies catching up and being like, all right, I'm receiving this new input, and it's like I know that my DNA is in a way extension of my thoughts, so I'm going to go ahead and activate and start making those progresses. But we need a significant hardware update as far as our
Yes.
body,
I
our
agree.
spiritual hardware update.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at that point,
Yes.
when that happens, new technologies will present themselves to us through not only ingenuity, but this pure consciousness flow. It would be like if you, say, before they invented the automobile, if people were fully conscious, or even like, almost to the point we are now, we probably would have went right to an air-powered hovercraft instead of something that's environmentally polluting, something that sucks all the oil and all the gasoline out of the earth, and is just really just basically a piece of shit of an invention, to be quite honest. Because you've got the ingenuity, but you've got greed going into it. Whereas take away that greed and ego and still have that mindset of consciousness, I mean, like I said, it probably would have been a hovercraft like you might see on Star Wars or in the Pleiades.
Such a Trekkie, man. I would love to see some phenomenal hovercrafts. More Star Wars. I gotta be frank. Like I'm
Yeah.
more of a fan of looking forward to like I guess a lot of ways just the sheer speed of some of the higher dimensional beings that I see throughout my day. It just they
Hmm.
zip so quickly sometimes. So just imagine like those pod racers from Star Wars. Has anyone
Hmm.
know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? Just those things that
Yes.
they're just zipping through the desert. It's
Oh,
just
wow. Yeah.
that I just imagine them like on these, you know, these self-propelled energy vehicles, and they're just zipping in and out of focus. It's just
It's more than the movie too, Tyler. It's because, man, I would be willing to bet you've been there before. You have done that in the past and in the future. We have had that kind of technology before, and
Yeah.
you're getting excited about going back to what you've always known and remembering who you always were. At least that's the way I kind of see it anyway.
thank you. Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. That is it's just that's what there's an article on N5D. It's like, are we remembering are we like basically beings remembering a premonition, where it's like, are we
Mm.
having a premonition of a realizing we've already lived this life, and we are destined to go home. It's like that feeling of going home and knowing um, that some people may not feel at home on earth,
Mhm.
but just that feeling of going home. Because I mean, it's in a lot of ways, I try to figure out whether uh, I'm Nordic, or one of the things I'm really thinking of with my dark hair and dark eyes is I may be vegan, or
Yeah,
from
Uh-huh.
the Vega constellation. I'm
right.
dark. I tan very easily. I get very dark. Um, so it's like, just little things about figuring out where we come from, and it's a day-to-day thing. You gotta
Yes.
take it one step at a time. If it basically the amount of information that we were receiving, to put it in a metaphor for you, is like if I were to try to bring you a whole elephant and make you eat it, do you think you could really do it? Like,
Right.
but if I, brought you a small piece of meat every day and said, eat this, you probably would.
Yeah.
And if you did that enough times, you would probably do it until the elephant was gone.
That's
Exactly.
a very good
And then you
point.
would just look back and realize, and I would tell you that, that was the whole elephant. That was it. And you would do it
Right.
without realizing it. So I think in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, and again, I'm should have used a different reference for the vegetarians out there. I actually am vegetarian.
I was jokingly
But that's
thinking
just,
that, but I get what
I
you
but
was
mean.
thinking
that's
that
just the
too.
metaphor that just popped into my head,
Yeah.
because it is a lot of information to chew
Yes.
on.
Yes, but also people are like kind of in a hurry to understand. It happened to me at some point. I was like, okay, I want to know what happened. I want to remember. I want to, have these clear visions. And I think it was at this point in which I relaxed and said, okay, the information is coming in little by little. And yeah, I started to feel like this. In my case, I kind of, yeah, I wasn't really sure because I felt like this resonance with the Pleiades and also Arcturus, right? So I'm still figuring it out. But while meditating, I start to have these visions of being with a group of humanoids, right? And I was part of them, and they were like comforting me from this 3D experience, right? And I cried, and they were like, "Yeah, but you chose it. It's okay." And I started to, and I said, "Yes, I'm from here," but it starts to come like little by little. When you open your mind, you connect, and it suddenly comes to you. But it's very important to not try to eat the whole elephant, as you say. I think it's a great point because we wouldn't be able to take it, I think.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough because we've talked about, me and some of the admins on here, one of our pet peeves is people that come on and will go, well, how do you know if you're a Pleiadian? How do I know this? Or I matched 12 of the characteristics, but not all 14. And
Yeah.
they're in such a hurry to just know it and ask it, and they haven't bothered to do any of the research yet.
Yeah.
They're in such a hurry but when you slow down and you think about it in a way like you're talking about, Maru, and in the way Tyler does it is perfect, with the beings that he sees, you really think about it and let it slowly sink in, and still, keep your mind open. But then, and then another thing opens up for you and you realize, okay, and it starts to really resonate with you more and more like that. And then you get to a point where you realize that, yeah, I may be that, but we are all one. It doesn't matter, but it's
Yeah.
no, we do get to find out where we're from and all that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But you don't do it by just, oh, well, I matched 12 of those characteristics. What about the other two?
No, yeah, it doesn't
I
work like
took
that.
this test and it says so does that mean I'm half Arcturian, half
Yes.
Pleiadian?
Yes.
It's like
Yes,
you've
I
had the
think.
chance to exist on all of them.
Yeah.
It's we're
Yeah,
talking about going home, your original home.
Yeah, yes, that's the thing because yeah,
perfect.
anything can happen. I mean, so many lifetimes. You might have been in Arcturus at some point, or maybe you have a connection with a higher entity from a different star system. It's quite complicated. You just start resonating with certain things, and then sometimes when you open your mind and you let it be, the answers come to you, right? It happened to me. I think it was, yeah, in the Pleiadian group, that someone from a member from that group shared my profile picture. I don't know him. We're not friends on Facebook or anything. And he shared it on his timeline, and he was like, "Oh, definitely a Pleiadian." And it was like, okay, there's my answer. You start receiving the answers from these different places, right?
Right, and really those different places were set up for you. So it's really you kind of following the trail of breadcrumbs back
Yeah.
to where that was a very interesting distinction I had today, is that we all just really need to become our own best friend, still obviously go out and socialize, have a social life, and contribute to a community and to a family, and share your gifts, but really making it a point to be your best friend and to realize that you are the one who's there for your ups and downs, and that you are the one who's helping you. And basically those, I'm reminded of those, this reminds me of those follow me pictures where it's like the girl's walking in front of the guy and you can see their hands connecting, and she's like leading them into different places. It's like follow me
Mm.
to Paris or Rome, the different places. But it's you basically, and as long as you're willing to put your hand out there, even though you may not see that there may be something leading you, you just have to believe and trust that it is you. It is there for your best interest. It's a direct reflection of yourself. It's your best friend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And when we realize that we are creating all the time. That I think it's part of everything. It's the universe creating itself, and we are projections and of the universe. The divinity is inside of us, and the purpose is creating. And when you realize that, then everything makes sense. It's like you are your prime creator. It's inside you. It's constant, and I think that's basically it.
Yeah, it's a real aha moment when
Power.
you come to that. Yeah, it's a real aha moment when you realize that, and that you are your own creator. And you know, when you don't take care of yourself and you're constantly trying to please everybody, be a people pleaser, well, all that ends up doing is you really end up alienating actually everybody, because you're doing it out of ego. But at
Mhm.
the same time, during that, you think to yourself, well, I can't, you know, if I love myself, you know, boy, that's egotistical. But really, that's how you take care of all those other people around you, is that you do love, you know, you start to love yourself and think, you know, you are your own best friend. And then that is really how you get that desired effect you want of truly pleasing other people.
Absolutely.
That's our
Yeah.
it's your springboard. If people who go
Hmm.
to the swimming pool and dive off the diving board, it's your springboard. Loving yourself. You know, when you jump onto that with such a force, it reverberates and catapults you upwards. It's powerful stuff. It really is.
It is. It is.
And I totally agree with it. It's more you're realizing the divinity within you, that you are the universe
Hmm.
repeating itself and duplicating itself and reliving itself and expanding on itself. It's a sense of divinity because we are connected to the universe. The universe is in us as we are
Yes.
in the universe.
No, I
Absolutely.
agree. I agree, you guys. And you know, I think we've touched on some really great subjects here, and I think that it's probably about time that we bring this broadcast to a close. But I'm going to let each one of you go. Maru, do you have anything that you would like to say, or anything that you'd like to share with our star family out there in the groups?
Yes, I think the the most important thing is to recognize what we just said, the divinity within you, the connection you have with your multidimensional self and your the higher realms, and start focusing on that so you can project it, and I think everything starts from there, and we're gonna I'm sure we're gonna create and make a huge difference and a huge impact on this planet, and it's very exciting, and I'm always here for you. I'm on the Pleiadian group,
Now
and
tell us where they can find you. Yeah, I was going to say, tell us where they can find you on Facebook if people so desire.
yes, well, it's my personal profile. That's the one I have. It's should I say it with an accent or not? Because
Go ahead, do it. Let's hear it.
it's Maru Morales Brito.
Beautiful. And they can find you on Pleiades Latin America as well as the Pleiadian group. And
Yes. And
that's
thank you so much, Larry, for this opportunity and for sharing
thank
with you. And
you're
Tyler,
welcome.
you're an amazing person. Really, it was a pleasure.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, Maru. Thank you. It's amazing to get together and to activate auditory DNA codes with other star seeds. It's a blessing. I just want to thank you, Larry. Of course, I want to thank all the people who are out there being spiritual warriors. I want to thank Michelle from Cosmic Star Seeds. I want to thank Greg Prescott for doing N5D. You can check me out on WordPress at the UDraw. That's Yankee Uniform Delta Rio Alpha, and that's our WordPress. And I'm also the leader of the Southeast Pleiadians. So check me out. My personal profile, Tyler Biedebach. It's Biedebach like beatbox, like Biedebach. There's
There you go.
I before E, BIE. And yeah, thank you, Larry. I definitely want to give you a big shout out, big man, because we could not do this without our rockin' Larry Locken, the
Locking
wizard, the
and
Absolutely.
legend.
loading. Oh,
Absolutely.
you got me
You,
blushing, guys. But thank you very much, and much love to you too, and much love to everybody out there in the groups. Again, I wanted to send a shout out again to Leah Shapiro, the Alien Tribe, 25,000 members strong of the Pleiadians group, the mothership group, I like to call it. Of course, everybody can find me out, look me out, check me out, or whatever they want to do out to me. at the Pleiadians group. They can find me at the Fringe Thinkers or at one of my various pages, the Pleiadian Light Grid Project, Pleiadian Woodstock, and one that I created the other night after actually I had a conversation with Michelle and Tyler, and Tyler was the first one I told about it, that the Pleiadians came through to me and wanted me to create this Pleiadian 70s disco culture page that, talking about Billy Meyer and Semyasi and all the different styles from the 70s that I really feel like in disco that were Pleiadian inspired. So they can find me at that page, as well as the Pleiadian Express Productions on Google and on YouTube. So I wanted to send much love to everybody out there in our star families, and thank you guys, and we'll go ahead and conclude tonight's broadcast. So goodbye, farewell, amen, namaste, wherever you may be in this vastness of the galaxy and space, but yet all at the same place. Much love.